This is Mommying While Muslim, recorded live and unedited. Watch as Zeba and Uzma record their podcast, see their reactions, and find out for yourself what all the buzz is about.
This episode of Momming While Muslim is brought to you by Guidance Residential. Sign up for a free webinar on Islamic Home Finance and the positive impact on society. The link to sign up for the November 1st webinar is in the description.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mommyingwhilemuslim podcast. This is Uzma Jaffrey.
And this is Zeba Hassan. I'm actually looking forward to going to that workshop because I know all the financial things I'm just so bad at. So I'm really thankful that they're offering that opportunity for people to go and get informed. Because I'm telling you, I am terrible at all of that. So thank you to Guidance Residential for helping us out with that.
Absolutely. So, aside from getting yourself more financially literate, what else have you been up to this week?
But you know, we're studying Columbus Day, or Indigenous People Day, as we're calling it in our household. And of course, I'm introducing some of the different types of points of view for historical events that have happened that we've learned and grown up with. And, you know, Indigenous People Day is, I think, Monday. And so, of course, I'm introducing that to my Z3 and my Z4. And, you know, they've learned in the past, the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria, coloring the boats and discovering America. And of course, I had to be the bearer, the songs, all that fun stuff. And of course, I had to be the bearer of bad news. And my Z3 was like, that Christopher Columbus was a bad guy, Mama. And I'm like, yes, honey, he was. So
Yes,
the beauty
exactly.
of homeschooling, unschooling, whatever it is that we want to call it, of course, you know, I don't believe in labels where those types of things are concerned. I have to say I'm really enjoying the opportunity to really go into depth for a lot of historical things. And I'm lucky we live in an area, you know, where we just decided we're going to go see Gettysburg today. And we got up and went and kind of made a field trip out of it. And I have to say it's like a blessing, and I'm genuinely enjoying that time with the kids. So I know I'm such a boring person these days. Like, I do the podcast and I homeschool my kids and I study myself, and I'm just a mom. But what about you? What have you guys been up to?
Well, first of all, you know, like those three words are like my least favorite words in the entire English language. I'm just a mom. So just a mom is not a thing. You're doing awesome, by the way. And I think on our social media, you'll be seeing stuff. You are the mom. You are the bomb diggity mom. On our socials for Indigenous Peoples Day or Original Peoples Day, we'll be having some posts and graphics up for that coming from the Zinn Project. So if y'all are not familiar or have never gotten the Howard Zinn books on American history told from, you know, a non-white male perspective, then, I mean, although he was a white male himself, but more insight, which it seems like all white males need these days, the majority of them. But he's one of the exceptional ones who did this great project and or wrote these books, and they're available for consumption by juveniles as well. So there's like an abridged version. It comes in 2 volumes for youth that you can use, and we're using that at our house too. So it's slow going, but check out our graphics for some easy shares with your kids. So that's the plan. Can I tell you about my stint this week? Not even this week, like literally yesterday with healthcare again.
Oh my God, what happened now? And like, my heart starts beating fast whenever,
well, I mean, this wasn't my family
about it, because I'm like, what? Okay. So I can relax
I think
a little
this is
bit.
important
Okay, so tell
because,
me now what is going on.
yeah, totally. This is an election year, and yesterday I had to make no fewer than 8 phone calls just to get a patient prior authorized for medical services that she needed and that she wanted, but she didn't want them in network. So those are like buzzwords or triggering words for some people, because whether you stay in network or out of network, like, can make a difference to your pocket. But, it just ticked me off, and it's more just another nail in the coffin of private payer system, which is what we have right now, which is insurances. And so, especially after watching, like, yeah, Call the Midwife is big national health care, national health service propaganda. I get it, but we've tried the private payer system for a really long time in the United States, and healthcare is only getting worse and more expensive. So I'm thinking, let's try the national healthcare experiment, guys. It's an election year. We have the opportunity to change things and make it better for you. I do not want my 80 and 90-year-old patients having to struggle, and their doctors struggle trying to get them very needed services, because, people write off old people anyway in this country. It's a very ageist society. So,
Oh.
healthcare insurance companies do the same thing, and it's just that was kind of the culmination of my week, and I was really irritated by it.
I'm so sorry. And I know you as a mom have to deal with it for your kids, and then as a doctor have to deal with it for your patients. And it's just not a fun thing to navigate, unfortunately. But I'm really sorry to hear that. But not that I'm trying to change topics, but I made a new best friend this week. And can I tell you who it is?
Who's your new best friend this week?
The fly that was on Mike Pence's head. He is the cutest thing I think I have ever seen.
I
And
never
I've
thought I would say
never
a fly is cute.
enjoyed a fly. Look at him. He's so cute. He's like mellow. He's calming. And this little guy has a Twitter feed that already has 70,000 plus followers. And look at that
Really?
cute little
Oh, yeah.
sign. Oh my God, he's a
70,000
doll.
followers.
So
Oh my gosh.
how? No,
No,
now
it's
it's
over 120,000 followers.
122,000.
Yeah.
The
That's a
fly
lot, man.
will vote,
Way to go,
everybody.
fly.
He is so cute. He is so cute. So I just had to say, he's my new best friend. I feel like the past debates were actually a little bit more mellow, and I know that we're going to be talking a little bit about that for your soapbox today. So, Uzma, what is our soapbox for this week?
The soapbox is more of a commentary on civil discourse, which, everybody knows we've lost it, especially in the last 4 years, but I think it's been something coming. In elementary and middle schools, we were taught Robert's Rules of Order. We were taught civil discourse. We were taught to watch the debates, the presidential debates. It was a learning opportunity. I remember in fifth grade, I dressed up as George Bush, and one of my friends dressed up as Michael Dukakis, and we did the debates. We did a funny spin on it. But that funny spin done by 10-year-olds is what's happening on the stage right now. So,
Oh my
I was
Lord.
really sad because my children are finally old enough to get important information about critical issues by watching presidential debates. But what we've had are not presidential debates. We've had monkey shows,
Mm-mm.
like flinging poop shows. I can't show that to my kids because I don't want them. I pulled them out of school so they wouldn't have that kind of engagement with another human being. So civil discourse has just gone completely out the window. I'm totally ticked off about it. There's no place for me to trust my kids to go to for information. Definitely not our government right now. What's coming out of the executive branch for sure. I can't let them watch these press releases, things again that we grew up on, we learned from, we learned to critically think about, critically read in classrooms. My experience has been that my children never got sent home with like a school newspaper or a sign to go read not the school newspaper, I'm sorry, like the local paper, or some national newspaper. None of that has ever happened. They've never learned to study current events. They've never learned to critically read between the lines, and consider, well, what would be the opposite? So in debate class, you have the affirmative and you have the negative, and then you look at both sides of every argument. My kids have not learned that yet. My oldest is 12 years old. So the whole concept of civil discourse, critical thinking, if our adults don't have it and don't demonstrate it, we really can't expect our kids to. So the onus does fall on us as parents to find resources, find places where we can get our kids to examine carefully what they're reading, examine carefully what they're hearing in order to make better decisions as grown-ups. Not just um, in Islam, because you got to make sure that the Islamic information that you're getting is legit and not from biased sources, but also stuff like politics. It's really, really important. So when my kids complain about, oh, you're making us read too much, then, and it's 20 minutes a day that I recommend. And I got them like this kids magazine that talks about politics and current events too. And they're like, why do we have to read this? And I'm like, so that you know all the issues or all the sides of the issues, and you can decide what you think about it. And other people are not going to feed you information or be able to mislead you, be able to double think you, double speak you, like they did in, we talk about in 1984, the book by George Orwell, where fact is presented as fiction and fiction is presented as fact. Like we've seen this phenomenon happen like snowball in the last 4 years. And if it can convert adults, think about what it's going to do to our children, you know? So, my soapbox for today is just find your critical reading sources, find your non biased sources, look for ways to engage ourselves and our kids so that we get credible news, credible reports, credible sources of all of our information. And we'll put in our show notes today the link to the Zinn project so that you guys can get started on your original People's Day information and counter some of the stuff that we've been spoon fed, through the years through our Western education and the media and government the last 4 years. That's our soapbox for today.
I'm loving that soapbox, and I definitely appreciate the insight. And I know part of the homeschooling journey for me this year is to do that, is to provide, and as adults too, by the way, just because it's on Facebook or just because doesn't mean you should be forwarding until you've actually looked at the sources. And I've been guilty of that myself. And then I'm like, oops, I'm spreading false information. And so we definitely have to take responsibility for that. So I appreciate that so much today, Uzma.
100%.
And I know we are continuing our Women's Health Month. And it's not just about what the food we put in our body or the mental health aspect of it. It's also about taking care of our hearts and our spirits. As you know, that's part of my personal journey as a mother. And today we're joined by another Z lady, Zahra Al-Jabri, who is a practical Muslim. She is a spiritual relationship coach, which I know I always need. She's a writer, award winner, mompreneur, entrepreneur. Also, guess what, everybody? A mom of four. So she obviously deserves the spotlight in Momming While Muslim today, because that's apparently our magic number. Her approach really results in like a personal transformation, because God has stated that when you change what is within yourself, you can change your external conditions. And I am a firm believer in that. And Zahra, thank you so much for joining us today on Momming While Muslim.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so
Welcome.
much for having me. What a pleasure. Wa alaikum salam.
So we love what you do at Practical Muslim and what you offer people. But before we get into that, we usually start our guests off by telling us a little bit about their mom story. We gave everybody a little bit of a teaser, but why don't you tell us a little bit, whatever you're comfortable telling us about your family, your kids, and a little bit then about your background.
Sure, yes. So I'm a mom of four. My oldest is 9. My youngest is 1.5. And I'm kind of one of those people who was never like, all I want to do is be a mom. I was actually really terrified of motherhood, the responsibility of caring for another person, of molding them and shaping them. Like that always weighed heavily on me. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey to kind of ease my own fears. It's been a journey of letting go. It's been a journey of understanding that they are not a reflection of me, that they are their own people. And it's really part of what's fueled my own spiritual awakening has been going through motherhood and figuring out how to navigate who I am, who they are, how I can feel contentment and at peace when I feel like I have so much to worry about. You know, it exponentially grows your worries once you have kids. Um, and so I guess that's a little bit of my mom story. I forgot the second part of your question.
Oh, just your family background.
Okay, my family background. My parents are from Kenya, and my husband is half Algerian and half white. And so we have these African roots, and we've taken the children to Kenya and Algeria several times. Um, and my parents were super involved in building up my local community's masjid. So that has always been really important to me to stay connected to the Muslim community, even though we live like in the white suburbs of California. We were really connected to our Muslim community, which was mostly Desi and Arab. Um, so that's kind of a bit of our background, and we are more adventurous type of family. We like to travel a lot. Right now, we are up in the mountains in Lake Arrowhead. We got a place for a month to just disconnect and go hiking and go to the lake and all that stuff.
That sounds so awesome.
No,
Oh
I
my gosh.
absolutely,
What a gift.
I know. I'm like, I might be joining you. I'm going to join you with my four. Like, we're going to have like a whole crew of kids because that sounds so heavenly to me right now. And I loved what you said, Zara, about. I'm going to say Zahra because I have a Zara as well. So I'm going to be mindful of the H in your name because it's two different names, as I've been told by a couple different people. So I loved how you said that your children helped actually awaken your spiritual journey. And a lot of people don't understand that that is what can happen through motherhood. Like, I feel like it is almost like a divine relationship, at least for me. That's how I feel. And I feel like instead of it being, infringing on my spirituality, it does help me feel more connected to God because I am responsible for making these people who they are. How has that journey been for you?
Yeah. Well, I want to pick at what you just said of feeling that responsibility for making the children who we are. That's actually the problem. That's actually what causes the stress. So what happened for me is that feeling that pressure of like, oh my gosh, I need to mold and shape their minds and their manners and their all of these things. Um, and as I was going through the spiritual journey, like I kept going back to the point that we're born on our fitra, right? And fitra means in our natural state that we are um, that we are connected and submitting to God in our natural state, in our fitra. And so when you look at um, a baby is totally relaxed, right? Their muscles, they just flop around. You know, you have to hold them because they will just like slide out of your arms. Um, they are relaxed. They cry when they need something, when they need to be carried and feel connection, or when they're hungry, or when they're diaper. But they are completely surrendered and at peace with life. They know that when they cry, they expect their needs to get met, and for the most part, they're met. They get changed and fed, and all of those things. And that state, that natural state, is what we all lose sight of and lose track of as we grow. So when we are a parent and we're looking at our children, it's an opportunity to remember what it's like. And that's what I've been practicing these days is when you see, when you get your kids a toy and they're playing with the box more, it's an opportunity to remember that, like,
Mhm.
the imagination, the excitement, the joy that they can bring out can come from the box. It doesn't have to come from the toy, the gift, whatever it was. That their creativity, that I think, especially in Islam, we've drilled into, or in the Muslim community, not in Islam, in the Muslim community, we've kind of honed in on this narrative of that, we have to raise obedient children, they have to be good, they have to be well mannered, and so we put this pressure on parents that you are the ones who have to do this. But when our children come into the world, they are good, they are loving, they
Yes.
are love, they already are those things. So the notion that we've got to make sure that they're good puts it as if there might be something bad within them. And so anytime we see them, oh, they forgot to, pick up that thing or said an unkind word or didn't greet that auntie properly, we're like, that was bad. That was bad. You have to do this. Remember that. And we harp on them because it's coming from this place of feeling that there might be some bad and we have to squash it to make sure they're good. But if we flip it and like believe that they're already good, and anytime they make a mistake or forget or whatever, okay, that was just a lapse. It's okay. Maybe I didn't teach you. Let me teach you about, how we greet people or how we, engage in conversation or how we debate. Let me teach you those things, and now you can go out and do it. But it's coming from a place of assuming their goodness. And that has been so powerful for me to learn, because I didn't really appreciate how much I feel that I'm not good. I feel that I'm not a good mom. I'm not a good Muslim. I'm not, like, I could always be doing better. So I'm always like judging myself. The little, voice in my head is telling me, you forgot to do this. You didn't call your mother. You were rude to that person. And so it's critiquing me and like, you're not good. You need to be better. And I'm projecting that onto my children. I'm projecting that, oh, you're not good. You're not good because you can be better. And if we just can stop that cycle and recognize that I'm good, and even if I make mistakes, that's okay. And my children are good. And if they make mistakes, that's okay. And start from that place that we're already good.
I'm over here doing these as you're talking, because this was something that I know, like I think, I don't know, maybe it's a 50-50. I don't have statistics on this one, but I find it really rare to meet a Muslim mom who was already afraid to be a mom, because I feel most of us were programmed to reproduce because it was a milestone that had to be done without considering, are you mentally and emotionally prepared to have this child? And I know my whole life I'm going to be a mom, I'm going to be a mom, I'm going to be a mom. And then it happened and it was like, oh, this is really hard. So I was one of those people who was really surprised and was really surprised at how quote unquote bad I was at it. And it took me until last year to fix my mindset, or maybe arguably the year I went to Hajj, a little bit of that changed, but like the fact that I'm the perfect mom for my children and they're the perfect kids for me didn't sink in until last year. But that took a lot of mindset work and reframing work. So can you speak to, kind of with your coaching philosophy, how do we stop saying things like, I'm just a mom, or I'm a bad mom, or I have all the responsibility of guiding my children to be correct? What kind of tools and coaching can you provide to our audience on mindset reframing?
Yeah, the most important way to reset your mindset is um, starting with your thoughts, catching yourself and noticing what you're subconsciously thinking. So for me, like I said, I realized that I had a subconscious thought that I'm not good, in the sense I'm not good enough. I'm not a good enough Muslim. I'm not a good enough mother. I'm not good, and I can do better. There's other, comparing, looking at other moms doing better, other Muslims praying to Hajj and doing all these things, and I'm barely waking up for Fajr. And so just like this weight of feeling that I'm not good. And what I had to learn um, is shifting your mindset in 3 areas. And so I start with shifting your mindset on how you view yourself. And that is to start retraining yourself to believe and understand, I am good. I am worthy. No one's supposed to be perfect. We're not supposed to be these little perfect Muslimas and Muslims that just walk around, praying nonstop and always remembering God. We're not supposed to be. Allah has told us, if you were people who did not make mistakes or, didn't commit sin, I would get rid of you and replace you with people who did. So we are human. It is part of our nature. It is part of our condition that we are flawed, and we can accept that. I just read a great quote that we love flawed and imperfect people. We need to allow ourselves to be one of them. Allow ourselves that grace and understand that we're good. We're perfect as we are. We're perfectly imperfect. Allah created us this way, and that there's nothing wrong with us, and that nothing we do, literally almost nothing that you do, disqualifies you from the mercy and love of God. And if you want, the proof of that, the shaitan who openly disobeyed God and was like, I'm not going to do what you say, and just it, and it's not that he didn't believe, he's talking directly to God. He knows he exists, he knows he created him, he's watched him create other things, he's worshiped him for all these years, and he's like, no, I'm not going to do this. All right, fine, you disobey. Like, okay, you need to get out of, you need to get out of here, God says. But then Shaitan comes back and says, but I want to make a dua to you. I want to have a prayer answered. And God's like, all right, what is it? And he's like, yeah, I want to stay alive till the end of time so I can mislead. And God's like, okay, you got, he's answering his prayer. God is answering Shaitan's prayer. So whatever it is that you are doing, it is not worse than Shaitan to God's face, like, being blasphemous to his face. And God's like, you have a prayer still? I mean, imagine the audacity of it. And he's like, yes, I still have a prayer. All right, what is it? Okay, I grant your request. So whatever it is that you want or you're dreaming of, nothing that you do or don't do disqualifies you from the love and the mercy and the prayers being answered from God. And when you really can sink into that and retrain your mind to catch yourself when you're thinking negatively about yourself, and say, it's okay. If there's nothing else that you can do, just whatever comes up, say, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Let that be your mantra until you can graduate to, I'm fine and this is great and my needs are met and I'm supported. You can graduate to more affirmative statements, but you can start with like, that's okay. It's okay. And that's the first mindset to shift into, to really appreciate that you are good and fine just as you are, even with everything that's happened in your past, and every bad habit you still have right now. It is okay. Then the second mindset is to how we view Allah. And here is where Islam and Muslims have kind of shifted towards a notion that is closer to kind of the Christian notion. The Christian notion that you hear about is like the angry man in the sky. And in Islam, we kind of have this attitude too, that Allah is, up there on his throne, judging us, writing the book of deeds. Ha ha, she didn't pray Fajr. Ooh, she didn't call her friend back. Ah, look at that. She did, whatever. Like, Allah is marking down and noticing and calculating all of our deeds, and it's just very grim and harsh. And we're trying to, get as much reward as we can to make up for all of the sins that we've done. And this attitude really takes the whole spirit of Islam, dilutes it. The truth of Allah that he's told us is that he is all loving, he is all merciful, that he is all forgiving, that, come to me with all of your sins. If it was as much as the ocean, I would forgive you. That we have so many stories and hadith around that, but we lose sight of it when we make Islam about just these different rules. So when we can really shift into the mindset that Allah's on my side, he wants me to be successful. He wants me to enjoy life, to appreciate life. It's not a mark of being a good Muslim that you're just serious and stern and always praying and having fun. No, that you can enjoy and be happy. We have a hadith that no one saw anyone smile more than the Prophet, that he was always smiling. That if you have a choice, yes, the Prophet ﷺ, if you have a choice between something, the easy way or the hard way, take the easy way. That we have a religion that is based on a loving God who's on our side, like he's our cheerleader. Like whatever you're got going on, he's like, you can do it, pushing you through it. He's presenting us with things to help us to come to him and to expand ourselves. It's not to say that life is just going to be easy. It's to say that he's on our side through all of the difficulty. So shifting in those two ways, shifting your mindset that you feel strong and confident in yourself, that you're okay, and then that that God's on your side and he's got your back no matter what. Then you shift your mindset with others. And with others here, now you can just be yourself. I'm confident God's on my side. I can say what I need help with. I can say what I don't like or dislike. I can, let go of feeling the need with children that they represent me, that, oh, my child, was rude or did something wrong, that, oh my God, it's a reflection of me. Like, no, they're their own person. I've taught them something. They didn't apply that teaching in that instance. That's on them. It's not on me. And, we even have to do this with our spouses, that we don't kind of um, take on what their behavior is as like a reflection on us. Like, oh my God, my spouse was, rude to my friend. How dare they? And same thing with our children, that we have this separation now because we know who we are and they're their own. And we're in this journey together, but we're in the journey of being mirrors to each other and helping each other elevate. But we're not in a journey of that we're just connected and tied and enmeshed in everything and every emotion that they do, that it's uh, it's a reflection of us, or it is a something that we have to feel and be involved in.
I love that. Those are like 3 really important points.
No, I
Yeah, and
definitely
those are the
appreciate it. And the one
foundation of
thing,
my coaching
um,
style.
that's what I was going to say. Like, I was wondering, and the one thing I did want to specifically point out, that therapy and coaching is very, very different. So, obviously, as a medical doctor, and therapy is more about healing your particular soul, and you usually do it in conjunction to coaching because then gives you kind of like this practical application in order to make these positive life choices. So I did want to point that out. And the second thing I really wanted to say is, a lot of us, second generation from immigrant families, are carrying the baggage of our own parents' parenting style, and making a conscientious choice to kind of break those stereotypes, break those things that have happened within our own family, including, my parents used to beat us. Like, that's just what they did because that's what they learned. And obviously now, I love them. This is not me complaining about them, but it's not something that I wanted to pass on to my next generation. What do you do, or what are the things that you can say to somebody coming to you that is carrying some of the baggage of the previous generation, and how to start making tangible, applicable change so that it doesn't get carried on to that next generation? Because that guilt mindset is definitely passed on from the generation before for us.
I don't think it's guilt more than shame.
Yeah,
Like, it's a
totally.
shame culture that's passed on, unfortunately.
Shame.
Hmm.
Yes, shame culture. So I feel guilt because I feel like I'm constantly being shamed. And how to make sure, to your point, when you're like, your kids are who they are. My kids openly talk to me about really random things. And, I couldn't imagine even to this day talking about those topics with my own parents. And I love that about them. But I have to make a conscientious choice, even internally, to be very blunt with you, to not feel that shame, not to push shame onto my kids. But it is a day-to-day thing to make sure I don't pass that along to the next generation.
Yeah, I
Somebody
totally
just
feel
asked,
that.
what
I
do they
mean,
mean about the shame culture from the parents?
guilt, it starts out as guilt and then it transmutes kind of to shame. But Uzma was going to say something.
No, I was going to let you handle the whole shame culture conversation too. Do you mind, or do you want me to do it?
I could do it.
Okay, do it.
Yeah, so
You got it.
guilt is the feeling of, I've, you know, you spill a glass of water and you feel guilty. I spilled that water. I made this mistake. I spilt it. The water is wasted. Shame is the feeling of, I'm a bad person. I'm bad because I spilled that water. So it's personalizing the action to yourself, to your whole persona, your whole character. So instead of just, you know, it's an action that happened and I feel guilty that that thing happened. It's assuming that whatever that characteristic is, becomes a part of you, right? So for example, we all feel anger. We all get angry sometimes. Like, oh, I got angry that, this thing happened with my friend. And then it can become, I'm an angry person. I'm anger. We feel shame because I am an angry person and I'm not supposed to be angry. I'm supposed to, I'm supposed to be a good Muslim, and Muslims don't get angry, they forgive. And so you feel shame about it, when instead you can just look at this emotion and this feeling for what it is. And what it is a notice. It's a ping, like, you're feeling angry. It's triggering something about your beliefs and your thinking that is making you, discontent in this moment, and dive in and look into that, instead of it triggering, oh my God, I'm a bad person because I'm feeling angry, and I'm angry and I did this after I was angry, blah, blah, blah. So that whole idea of shame. And now if we think about those of us who are children of immigrants, of which so much of the Muslim community is, and how we were raised, we have a generation of Muslims who were raised really to as much as they can kind of slide in unnoticed. And what our parents tended to take that
Yes.
to mean is to be nice, right? And what did nice mean? Means give up your own thoughts and feelings to whoever else it is. The auntie comes in and she wants to hug you and talk to you for 10 hours. Be nice. Sit there and listen to the auntie. Even if she's talking nonsense and things that, are rude or condescending, like, you're just supposed to sit there politely and take it. um for sisters, a brother is, saying something sexist or whatever, or they're being in the masjid, just be nice, be nice, everything, be nice, be nice. And be nice became code for assimilate, don't speak up, don't have high standards, don't express your need for boundaries, don't complain, don't just it just was to quiet and to shrink us really, so that we could be unnoticed, right? Because for a lot of us, our parents were leaving countries where, they were facing different struggles or oppression, and were coming to the United States and different Western countries for opportunity to grow and expand. And for them, that just looked like being able to have a good home life that was at peace, right? Not in conflict in whatever way their home country was in conflict. And so that piece they felt would be jeopardized if if we started making demands, if we were speaking out in school, like, hey, I know about Christopher Columbus and that doesn't sound right. Like, no, 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 just, we'll teach you it at home, don't say anything in the classroom. So this whole
Right.
idea that now a lot of Muslims are breaking away from is like, okay, we're past that stage now. We don't need to be nice. Now we can begin to really assert our identity, stand up for ourselves, demand our rights, speak up for, what we believe in or how we want to express ourselves. And, even when it comes to what we want to do, like, not be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, that I want to be a woodworker, I want to be a poet, I want to be, doing different things. Um, in that way, that break is really good. And so as we're breaking from that, we also have to, um, just as you mentioned, we don't need to be angry or resentful towards our parents. I mean, we may have those feelings, but we have to appreciate and understand what their experience was and what they were going through, and we can love them through that they were going through that struggle, and that got us here, and we're so grateful for that. And now
Yes.
we're doing something else, and to honor that past while we break away from it, and to appreciate their struggle while we navigate our own struggles, and to not feel tied to doing things their way, because that was for a different place and a different time and a different environment. And now we are moving into this environment that calls for different behavior and different thoughts and different actions.
I think that though both of those explanations, the guilt and shame explanation and separating ourselves from the cultural baggage, the cultural mental baggage um, that we've been dealing with, even as, I would argue into our adulthood, is really important. I think you hit the nails on the head for both of those. Now, in terms of mothering ourselves, Zeba and I frequently talk about wellness being not just physical, emotional, mental, but what you create through your work is like a spiritual wellness as well. Can you talk a little bit about your coaching and the spiritual wellness, not just for moms? Like, we don't just mother our kids, right? We have to mother ourselves with all of these different types of wellnesses, and with this like thought model, mindset reframing, whatever the proper term is for it. Why that's more important for us to start here. And I know I'm circling back to the beginning of your talk, but I think it's important for us to really delve into how you create that spiritual wellness in moms and how they can take that to their kids to encourage spiritual wellness in their children.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we all need to heal our inner child. And our inner child is, as you say, we are remothering ourselves, right? In whatever way that we felt disconnected or lacking in love from childhood, we have to now fill ourselves up with that now. And again, like I said, for our for immigrant children, a lot of this feeling of of not being good enough, right? We were being judged by a white standard when we were not white, right? We are immigrants from someplace else, but now we're bombarded with these white standards of beauty and white standards of, what they've achieved and have. And our parents are, doing something else and eating different foods and all of those things. So to remother and come back to ourselves and appreciate all of who our parents were and who we are. And why this is important is because the most important thing for us is our own self. We cannot hope to have any impact in our own lives if we have not addressed these internal issues, and we can't really express what is within us if we don't know what it is or appreciate what it is. So it's this turning inward, which is all of what Islam is about, right? Islam, the whole religion of Islam is to remind us to turn inward, to pray, to sit quietly in meditation, in, nowadays we journal and those things, and reflection. How many times are those things repeated in the Quran? Versus how many times is it told to, to go, and go out and do things. It's always telling us to look back, look inward. And what I do in my coaching with spiritually is that right now, what I believe is that Islam has been reduced to rules. It's been reduced to, how do you wear your hijab, your beard length? Are you eating gelatin? Oh my God, there's gelatin in Oreos. Oh no, no more. They're not in Oreos, but they're in the Skittles. That we're just like checking off a list of to-dos and not to-dos. Right. And I don't know how many email threads you guys have been on about gelatin, but like, we get it. Like, we're trying not to. And I believe that God would forgive us if I, ate that one thing that had an
Accidentally eat a gummy
enzyme
bear.
of a pig that I didn't know. Yeah. But that's, if in that example is how petty we've made God. We've made God petty, that he's going to judge us. You ate that gummy bear. It had pork enzyme in it. That counts against you. That counts against you. What? Do we believe that God is that petty? We are that petty. God is not like us. Thank goodness. God is not like us. Right?
Yeah.
He is all merciful. And so we have to let go of that notion that this is a pettiness to God about how he's viewing us and how he's judging us. And then that releases us to accept that God is loving and God is love. And part of what I do is I write these devotionals, and they're short reminders that help you hear God in loving and supportive tones so that you can appreciate that God is looking more at the bigger picture, because that's what he tells us in the Quran, right? Like the ruling against like pork and alcohol and all of these rules came first of all like 13 years into Islam. So the first 13 years, all that the Prophet, peace be upon him, was building up in the community was their connection to God. And then after that, came the rules. And nowadays we have it reversed. The first thing we teach our children is the rules. You're not allowed to eat pepperoni. You have to wear the hijab. You have to pray like this. Da, 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 da. They don't know who God is. They don't know what he's doing. They just think, oh my God, this, being is judging me if I don't do all of these things. And I've got to learn all these lists of rules and I got to do them. And that is not our tradition. That is not our history. Our history and our tradition is of communing and connecting with God. The first set of believers, it was obligatory for them to pray tahajjud. Why pray tahajjud? Like the most difficult thing, because that was how they were getting close to, in the middle of the night, standing up, praying. And it wasn't just the ritual movements of prayer and saying words. First of all, they understood the language, so they were reciting things that they understood and had deep meaning for them. And we know about that because there's so many stories of how just hearing the Quran, people would burst into tears or immediately convert, that the words had power and meaning. For us, it's just like say, if make dhikr, right? Remember God. Bismillah, subhanallah, subhanallah, subhanallah. We don't know what we're saying. We're just repeating it. We're supposed to say it 100 times. It has no bearing into our heart. And so beyond the rituals that you do, and of course, everyone should engage in the rituals as they can. But beyond that, find ways to connect spiritually that touches your heart, that whatever way, subhanAllah, that you can say it, if it's in English or if it's drawing a picture or looking at nature that makes you feel subhanAllah, do that. Because the point was to feel it. The point was never to just recite and stand and move up and down. The point was to feel the connection. And these rituals are triggers and ways to help you remember. Just as now yoga is popular, similarly, right? We already know that prayer is a type of yoga. And then if you do yoga, you know that you're focusing on the breath, you're watching what you're thinking, you're connecting. We're supposed to pray like that. We're supposed to be focused on our breath. We're supposed to be watching what we're thinking. We're supposed to be thinking about God. We're supposed to be having that communion with our internal body and with an external being. And not even an external being. Allah says that he's closer to us than our jugular vein, to really feel into where is Allah within us? Where is God within us? Where do I feel that connection? And so as we are remothering ourselves, it is to go back to that childlike state, to that fitra where we felt it. When you look at children, that's why children are the example. When you look at children and you just see them happy and carefree, and they are not worried about the future, what's going to come tomorrow, and they're not thinking about the past and their past mistakes. They don't carry that shame. They'll come to you the next day. That day, Mommy, can I have ice cream? Like, you just had ice cream earlier, or remember what you did yesterday? They're like, well, that was yesterday. Can I have ice cream now? Like, they're like, okay. And if you tell them you can have it after lunch, after dinner, or whatever, like, no, I want it now. Like, there's no concept of this delay and whatever. Like, this is what I'm feeling in the moment. I feel that I'm worthy and deserving of it now. No child ever says, well, do you think you deserve it? They always say yes. They're like, you don't deserve it because of blah, blah, blah. But they don't have that notion.
Yeah.
They know I am worthy of whatever I want and I am deserving of whatever I want. And that's why I have no shame asking for it 100 times, because I'm worthy of it. And it's unfortunate that I have to go through you to get it, but they understand that they're not having to have this whole sort of mental gymnastics that we do as adults. Did I earn it? Did I deserve it? Am I worthy of it? Am I being judged? Blah, blah, blah. They don't do that. They're just looking in the moment. I want to play with my friend. Can I play? And they see no reason why not. They're playing and they play. And so it's the way that our children can be that spiritual guide for us, that like, that's an okay way to live, that's an okay way to be, right? The most thing that we want for our children is for them to be happy. And then we come in and try to manufacture all of this happiness, but they're already happy. Like, you look at them and they wake up and they're happy. Like, I literally wish I could wake up like any of my children do. I do not know like how they have so much energy. I wake up and just exhausted, like, God, can I please just go back to sleep? They're waking up excited. And I'm like, what are you excited about? What are you excited about? I don't know. But they
but I
are.
mean, but
That
isn't that,
zest
but
for
isn't
life
the
that they
simplicity of that like exactly? But isn't that the beauty of having children is that as parents we get to see the simplicity of life through their eyes and be able to experience it again. And I remember this one particular time my Z3 was he was praying right before, like, obviously we do prayer together and then they go to bed and they do their duas, and then I just saw him like really fervently like praying, and I come up to him, I'm like, I matter of factly said, "Oh, so what are you praying for?" Thinking he was going to ask for like a toy or something. He was like, "Nothing, Mama. I'm just telling Allah how grateful I am for every." And then I was like, what a great reminder, right? To be like, gratefulness, that concept of positivity. And the reality of life is half of life is fake it till you make it. If you're faking like you're happy, it'll eventually come, right? Like, try to find the positive, like when everyone's like, how's it going? Like, do you really want to know how's it going? Do you want me to spend 15 minutes telling you like what a crap day? Or am I going to focus on, I got up, my kids were cuddling with me, we have a roof over our head, we are eating healthy meals together, we have this opportunity. It's not the most ideal time. 2020 is not the best year, but what can we learn and grow? And it's that concept of connectivity and growth mindset that I think if we all have, it can put us in a better, more spiritual, happier place. And I loved what you said, Zahra, about yoga. I do practice yoga. And honestly, while I'm doing yoga, I actually do my own internal zikr. Like, I say subhanallah, I go in, and through the motion, I definitely feel more connected and rested. And it does make me focus more on not rushing through my prayers for the sake of rushing through my prayers. So I definitely love that analogy. And, you're making me feel like despite the rain coming, I'm going to choose to be positive for the entire weekend. So thank you for that.
I like the reminder of the attitude of gratitude, but, a couple of thoughts that I had, based on what Zahra was just saying, the inherent natural innocence and worthiness of children. When we're policing our kids and saying, you need to do this by this, we're setting milestones for them instead of letting them independently self-direct themselves. When we're policing them, is it possibly, and this is just a question for us to think about, are we policing them because we're jealous of the relationship that they have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Like, they're completely innocent. Like, they're not even accountable for their sins until after they hit puberty. Are we jealous of that? And is that why we're imposing all these rules on them? Because that trauma was done to us and now we're doing it to you. I think there is an element of conscientiously doing it out of jealousy for their innocence, possibly. The second thing that I want to remind ourselves of, us of, is whomever Allah guides, no one can misguide. And whomever He allows to be misguided, no one can guide. So when we are like, oh, my kids have to be the perfect Muslims, they have to be the best Muslims, and it's up to me, and I have to make them read Quran, and I have to make them pray 5 times a day, and I have to make sure that they fast 30 days, blah, 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 all of that stuff. If they don't want to do it out of a love for Allah themselves, you can't create that. That is a gift only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give. And that's
Yes.
something that we only come to understand once we fully recognize the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we observe it in our parenting and the way that we parent our kids. And that takes a level of thought reframing about the results that we want. If I want children that are close to Allah, then these are the thoughts that I need to have that will serve that purpose and achieve that goal. These are the ones that will not. And I think it's really important. Again, I learned this very late in life, and I wish I had had somebody like Zahra in my life back in my 20s and 30s, late 20s and 30s, when I was parenting little kids, not understanding this, but now she's available to people who maybe are struggling, new moms of teens. I feel like with every milestone that our kids have, we probably regress a little bit and are like, oh my God, like it's all out of my control. And the beautiful part is, we never had control. It was never in our hands. But people like Zahra can probably teach us the exercises that we need in order to remember that no matter what comes our way, whatever challenge comes our way. What do you think about that, Zahra?
I love that. I love what you just shared. That's a great way to end. Is the most important thing is that illusion of control, and to recognize that society is what is fostering that belief, right? I always think of when traveling, and there was one time on the plane that a person turned back and was like, one of my kids was crying, can you control your kid? And I just felt so much shame and guilt. And, oh my God, how can I get them to stop crying? I'm trying to nurse him and he's not asleep, crying. Oh. But I cannot. But society makes you think like, can you control your kid? You should be in control of your kid, but we cannot. And we have to let go of that idea. And if someone says that to you, be like, no, I can't control my kid. Can you control them?
Exactly.
Can you even control yourself from, stopping to eat a cake if you saw a cake? Like, we barely have control over ourselves, let alone another human being. So
we're working
really
on that, Zahra. We're working on that.
It.
We're trying
our best. You don't know what I want. What I did at midnight.
No, I absolutely love that.
Are those your
closing thoughts? Like I said, I love that.
What was it,
yes,
Zeba,
those
you
are
were
my
saying at the end of the
thoughts.
day?
Just to if.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, the lag is driving me nuts today. No, but I was just going to say at the end of the day, like what you said, to bring it full circle back to what you said, Uzma, we are the best parent for our child. And whatever we can do to help reframe our own internal relationship with God, concept, connection with spirituality, our own internal mental peace and happiness, that's inevitably going to pass along to your children. That's the truth of it. Like, that whole concept of happy life, happy wife, it really is true. You, as the mom, are the heart of the household. And this is not me being sexist. This is just pure biology. My kids gravitate towards me before they go to their dad as much as they love their dad. And if I'm in a bad mood, they feel it in their own, and then everybody's in a bad mood. So this whole concept of, fake it till you make it, try to be happy, this spiritual connection, being positive, that gratitude attitude, like you said, Uzma, I think will go along, will play an important role in our children's lives and ultimately in our lives when our children are gone.
Zahra, where can people find you if they want more information on how to retrain their brains and their mindsets?
So the only social media I use is Instagram, and there I'm at Practical Muslim. You can also email me, Zahra@practicalmuslim.com. And my website is practicalmuslim.com. So find me there.
We made it really easy. Thank you so much for joining us today and for all the great information and great reminders that we're going to need. And, like Zeba was saying, once we start practicing it, we'll be modeling it for our children. And inshallah, that is just when women are healthy, the households are healthy. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today and for all your pearls.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Thank you for watching this episode of Mommyingwhilemuslim. You can sign up for a free webinar by Guidance Residential by clicking on the link in the description.